On this episode of the podcast, we talk about the power of vulnerability and how the rhythm of a daily anthem has changed my life and my guest's life. And then we also talk about the result of helping others win for your video business. What's up, friend? I'm Ryan Coral from Studio Sherpas, and this is the Grow Your Video Business podcast, the show for corporate and commercial filmmakers who are wanting to build a business without burning out. On this show, we talk about stuff like how to get more clients, how to charge what you're worth. We talk about all the aspects of running a video business. I could talk for hours about gear and about storytelling and all of those things, and that stuff is good, and you need that to build a sustainable business. But more importantly, you need business acumen. I don't even know what that word means, but I think it means like business stuff, and that's what I'm here for. That's what I want to help you with. I've been running my video business for almost 2 decades now, and I've learned a thing or two about the business side. I really get excited about the business stuff. I love reading business books and hanging out with people that are entrepreneurs in different areas of industries, and then trying to relay all of the things that I learned here and also apply those things in my video production business as well. For pointing at my team as they are that way, overworking right now. And I'm working here, right? This is work, right? This is a super fun episode. I got to interview my good friend, Mark Ostach. He really is a good friend. You're going to hear more about our friendship in this episode. We're really going to invite you into our world, and we got pretty vulnerable in this episode. Imagine that, Ryan getting vulnerable. Yes, it has happened once or twice before in my life. Just kidding, today. Before we jump in, I want you to know about a training, a brand new training that I have to help you elevate your filmmaking business. This is an 80-minute workshop where I teach the 3 must-have components for marketing to your dream client and attracting your dream client. I share a simple secret that gets our clients paying more money, and also how you can build an automated lead funnel for your own business. I know that's probably one of the most frustrating things in running a business is feast or famine. When you're super busy, everything's going great, but then when things slow down, it's like, oh, now I got to start working on marketing and trying to figure out all of that stuff. This workshop is completely free. I want you to get access to it. You can get immediate access. I would like you to listen to this episode, but when you're ready, you can go to studiosherpas.com/workshop. Get ready to take some notes because there is a lot of stuff that I teach, and more than just taking notes, I really want you to take action on the things that I teach in that workshop that I think will help you, will help your video business, and will help you make a bigger impact and build a more sustainable business. So go grab that, and without further ado, ado, that's a word, right? Let's jump into this interview with my friend, Mark Ostach. What's up, friends? Hey, welcome to this episode of the podcast. Today, I am joined, I wish we were doing this in person, but I am joined today with a good buddy of mine. He's like famous, and he's a good buddy. His name is Mark Ostach. He's an author. He's a speaker. If you've been to the Onward Summits, circa 2021, you would have met Mark as he was one of our keynote speakers. Mark, what's up, dude? Welcome to the show, man.
What's up, Ryan? I am really thankful to be here. You told me something about a free lunch, and then you sent me a link, and there's no lunch.
Shoot.
And here we are, connecting
This
via.
is awkward.
Yeah, it is awkward. But no, I'm glad to be here, and glad to kind of coming back to the studio for the session today. So what's going on? What's on your mind?
So Mark's specialty, one of his many specialties, he talks about digital wellness, and I think it is obviously a super relevant topic for so many people. What would you say, like in all of the work that you do get to do, And quick side note here, you guys. Mark just bought a house in Clarkston. That is the town that I live in. So our friendship is just gonna get weirder, and it's it's uh that's all I got. I was hoping you were gonna say
There's
something.
like the man crush and the office bromance. This is like, I mean, there is a desire to get the same zip code as Ryan. And when I learned we're like 14 minutes away from each other, I think we might be spending like the holidays. Like we might just merge our families. So no, there's a deep love there.
Yes.
But yeah. So what was your question?
Yeah. My question is, what are you doing here? Just kidding.
Yeah.
With the work that you do, what would you say is like one of the most fulfilling parts of what you get to do?
Yeah, just a quick precursor to that. So, always been an entrepreneur, always been a small business owner. So I know that like pressure of pursuing your passions and interests and then making a living, which I know many of your listeners are straddling that on a week to week, month to month
Yeah.
basis. But I always felt seeds inside of me that were kind of rooted in this space of encouragement and even if you want to call it counseling. So that's the way I'm wired, kind of an Enneagram 2 for those that know the Enneagram. And then just knowing that there's a deep desire to kind of listen and impact in the small business environment. So I share that because the side hustle that I started kind of on this journey 10 years ago on advocating for the psychology of technology kind of was birthed out of working for a small tech company and then having studied psychology and neuroscience in undergrad. These two things kind of interceded together to say like, hey, how can I advocate for a healthier digital life? But more importantly, how can I double down on making sure that the relational connections that we have and hold don't get muddied down by the transactional nature of just social media and the digital life. So all that's to say is that kind of journey has taken me on quite a cool experience. And then in the last 2 years, probably the most valuable work I get to do is just encourage human connection. And that has looked like going to corporations and different teams, trying to encourage them ways to find connection online over team and Zooms, offline, back in the office or in the field, and then in line with themselves. So just I get to basically tell stories for a living and encourage people. That's my job.
It's like you're living your best life because you're excellent at both of those things.
I'm very, very blessed, very, very, very grateful.
What transformation have you seen or heard from the many people that you've been able to work with?
Yeah. So the summit at your studio in 2021, those that were there, we started off with an exercise called "If You Really Knew Me." And if you really knew me is a way to invite vulnerability into the room and has been probably the most significant transformation that I've got to experience as a facilitator and as a witness to those who have kind of broken down the traditional walls of keeping personal life outside of the professional environment. So let me just model this exercise and then I'm going to have you model it back, Ryan, so that way the listeners know what it is we're talking about. So if you really knew me, you would know that I have a 4 and a 7-year-old upstairs that are eager to play with dad as soon as this podcast is done. If you really knew me, I'm moving to Clarkston and I nearly had a panic attack 2 days ago, wondering if this is the right thing I should do for my family.
Jeez.
If you really knew me, you would know that I have a wife who is Serbian, who is tough as nails, but as tender as they
Mm,
come.
mhm.
If you really knew me, you'd know that about 45 minutes ago, I got some sad news about a loved one that's been in a really serious car accident. So I feel grief and sadness on my soul and in my stomach. And if you really knew me, you would know that um, one day, through the miracles of hair loss transformation, I will one day have a matching mullet like you.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, no, that's accurate. If you really knew me, you'd know that I love Reese's peanut butter cups. It's like one of my greatest weaknesses in my life. If you really knew me, you'd know that growing up, I had way too many Star Wars guys and He-Man guys to play with. If you really knew me, you'd know that I shared this exercise when I was on stage last week and I started crying, and I'm not going
Mm,
to do that today on this
mm,
podcast. I'll save that for another episode. And if you really knew me, oh, you would know that I brought beers into to lunch for the guys today and shared a beer with
mm, mm. Give me one more. G-
them.
What's something spicy?
Man, if you really knew me, you'd know that you're trying to make me cry. You're trying to hit that trigger, and I don't appreciate it. So let me see here. If you really knew me, you'd know um, just the podcast aside, YouTube channel aside, even you sharing about when you came and did this exercise here with the 12 people that were in attendance. It was probably one of the most beautiful moments that I've gotten to experience um, in the community of Studio Sherpas and other filmmakers to see the vulnerability. It is like a massive treasure for me for the that I get to partner with other people in this kind of work.
I love it. Thank you for
Well,
sharing
super
that.
spicy,
And
but
I'll just also kind of add to that. I got some incredible, I never even shared this with you, Ryan. I got some really incredible follow up from a few of the attendees
mm,
that were in the room for the summit and shared like there was an atmosphere. I mean, keep in mind the majority of the people in the room were men, and men tend to not like get open and emotional. And this was a kickoff of was it a 2 day summit or a 3 day?
that was like 2.5.
2.5 days. So like there was a bond and an atmosphere
Yeah.
of like of I mean, it was indescribable, but like I'm just grateful to have been able to be a part of that. But going back to your original question, transformation I think comes when we're able to get real on where we're at. And oftentimes we don't have permission or the social or cultural cues don't afford us to go there. So we live our life in a more of a shallow space
Mhm.
when we're being invited into deeper connections, but it requires intention and kind of even you've got like the wonderful defense mechanism of humor and the gift of deflection. So even when somebody's connecting or giving you something, it either goes right back to them, or you got a gif or an emoji to cover up whatever you're trying to feel.
Yes, it's one of my spiritual gifts. You're
Yeah,
welcome.
exactly.
I will say that, I was at this event last week and sharing on stage. I was talking about my dad, and whenever I talk about my dad passed, man, almost 20 years ago. And whenever I share, I have a different relationship with him today, obviously,
Yeah.
than all those years ago. But my compassion and empathy and all of those feelings that I have for him today versus, being a teenager and just all the angst and all the, annoyance and all those things. But being able to share the things I shared, and I had so many people come up to me after my talk and just say, man, I've got a parent who's sick, or my mom passed away, or my wife passed, like a guy who was my age, he's telling me about his wife passing away. And I feel like, I gave permission to people to just be real. I had all these like grown men crying and sharing their story uh because they felt connected, right? That
Yes.
idea of like having that courage to connect. So I'm just going to preface this right now for
Yeah.
anybody who is considering coming to the next Onward Summit. It's not a cry fest. It's not like we're not going to, intentionally make you say or do anything that makes you uncomfortable. So I'm just going to disclaimer, that I'm just going to throw that out there. This is the first time anything like that has happened. So that's just want to put
Yeah.
that out there.
Don't people usually cry when you talk about financial projections for Q4 of
Totally.
2023?
Yeah. I
Yeah,
wish
no,
it was
but
more.
in the same space, Ryan, and like we don't need to belabor this point, but it is a point worth spending time on, is that there's so much pain and overwhelm
Yeah.
and just stuff that's been circulating in the atmosphere for so many years that it kind of, you know, you can either, have you ever heard that saying like you can set the temperature or change the temperature. You go in and just continue circulating the nonsense of the
Yeah.
news headlines, or those sorts of things, or you can come in and just kind of set the tone, so to
Yeah.
speak. And I think that this exercise allows us to find common grounds that we stand on, so that there's actually an opportunity for unity and connection beyond our which Canon cameras we own, and the greatest gear
Yeah.
that we have, and all the stuff that we want to buy for our businesses that are great, but don't necessarily give us an opportunity to learn about who we
Yeah.
are in the room, or on the shoot with. So
Yeah. And I would say being like, I remember 20 years ago, no, 15 years ago when I started in this industry in a room full of other videographers, filmmakers. And that's, it was like, what do I need to know? What knowledge do I need to know in order to like grow this business so I can charge more, so I can have cooler films? And I remember then that was great. That was super helpful. It's like, you need that stuff in order to know,
right.
like, and to have a powerful network of people. It can have a massive impact on your business. I also remember before my dad passed, when we found out that he was sick, and the doctors had given him a year to live or 6 months, I can't remember. And I remember we just gone to a Red Wings game. A friend of mine said, "Hey, take your dad out. Like, go watch the Wings play. Have a fun night." So we went out to dinner, and I remember driving home. And I just remember we were talking about we had a great night. It was so much we had so much fun, but we were talking about sports or the weather or something like that. And I stopped my dad and I said, "Listen, I I don't know how much time we have together, but I
Mm,
don't want the majority of our conversations to be about stuff
mm,
that doesn't matter."
mm.
And so I feel like I've had like in that me having that conversation with him, like the version of me 10 years before that
Right.
was not who I was. I was a very different person. But I think about today, and I think about my business, and I think about the people that I surround myself with, and I think about the success that I've been able to experience, and it's so much more than what camera are you using? What's sales techniques and tactics. So you listen to this show, or you come to the Onward Summit, or you spend any amount of time with me, it's going to be pretty quick that I'm like, I don't care about what camera. Use your phone for all I care. There's so much more to mindset and the way that we approach relationship with people. Uh, it's way bigger than the tactics and the strategies, and you need that stuff, right? But I think. And I know I'm just preaching to the choir here. You're just like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
you got to connect, you got to have that. But feel free to,
Yeah, yeah,
cut
yeah.
me off
So
at
I
any
mean,
moment.
so let's take the listeners back to I think it was our first date, you and I. It was the Need to Breathe show, and it was one of those things where our friendship was like, here. Let's back it up. My wife is a photographer in the business. Her and Ryan used to refer business or be at places,
Back in the
and
wedding days,
yeah,
forever
and back
ago.
in the wedding days, nearly 2 decades ago, 15
Yep.
years ago. So, anyways, she knew who Ryan was. I didn't. Then we share a mutual mentor in Dr. Lauren Sifrine. Shout out to Lauren. He's a walking, talking Yoda. He's
Oh, man,
91, and he's full
incredible
of
human.
wisdom and God's peace.
Yep.
But when we reconnected, uh, the friendship was fast, and it was because we went where the rubber meets the road, talking about things like life and faith and families and those sorts of things. So fast forward to our first date at the Need the Breeze show, which I later learned I was like a C-list text of like, hey, my buddy, my cousin, my
My
mailman, they can't
mom,
make
my
it. I'm gonna text this Mark guy. So, anyways, we're at the Need to Breathe show and we love it. It's so good. We're
oh,
rocking
man.
out. If you have never listened to Need to Breathe, please check them out. But after the show, like you would on any other first date, we're sitting on Ryan's tailgate, um, this is a true story, by the way. We're on the tailgate and we're just
He
sharing
leans
life.
over and
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But we actually got on the topic of like, hey, what book are you reading? And we
mm,
started kind of sharing Audible titles. And there's a book that we both, were encouraged about called Soundtracks by John
yeah.
Acuff. And John Acuff really is a brilliant mind. I actually had a dream about John Acuff last night. Insane. I'm not,
Of course
please,
you did.
John, if you're listening to this, but anyways, John's books are meant for kind of the business entrepreneur mindset community. And in soundtracks, he has a new anthem, and he basically says that the thoughts in our heads are our greatest hits, and many times we need to retire soundtracks that are broken. An example of that would be "I'm not good enough," or "I'll never have enough money," or "I'm ugly," or "My dad's an alcoholic, therefore I'm an alcoholic," or a number of other things that spin out of control. So he teaches us how to turn down the volume and begin kind of proclaiming a new anthem rooted from Zig Ziglar's work on positive psychology. And all that's to say, in this new anthem that I read daily, that's taped to my bathroom mirror, John displays 10 things that you can share. And one of those things that he says is, when I help others win,
Mhm.
I win
Me
too.
too.
And Ryan has been one of those people that have demonstrated very swiftly to me that it's about helping others win.
Mm.
And you've given me free advice, free counsel. Just today, we were texting, and you're like, I was saying how I'm moving, which is why I don't have my studio set up. You've got kind of the background of the kids zone, but you were like, "What do you need?" And like, I can only imagine what your to-do list looks like. And before you know it, you're helping me win with contractors in the Clarkston area that I've already reached out to. So going back to mindset and purpose and connection, there's a countercultural movement that's being started by Ryan and I, taking some of these practices that John Acuff, like the example of momentum is messy,
Mm.
right?
Oh yeah.
Which we know. So like Ryan's helped me get through a course that I could have hired his studio to do, but instead he just kind of gave me resources that I was able to go direct to because he was just helping me win and wanting to remove the resistance of whatever else was in the way. So all that's to say is I really deeply love the fact that you're modeling what you preach, but you're also elevating your, I hate to say the word legacy because I don't want you to get the wrong impression, but you're realizing the work is in the giving, not the receiving and taking.
Mm. Thank you. Um, do you have the rest of that script that I prepared for you? Can you read that?
Yes,
Just
yeah, and for a low fee for $5.99, check out Ryan's course. Lifetime access to all the videos. Lifetime access. Lifetime access. Unsubscribe. Unsubscribe.
Oh man, dude, that's really nice. I hope that translates to something practical for our audience instead of like, okay, here's Mark and Ryan just talking about how much they like each other and how cool they
Yes.
think they
Well, no,
are.
let me break it down to one practical takeaway.
Please.
Again, using John's words, when I help others win, I win
Yeah.
too. So whether you're in a market where you're booked up for July and August and for work and weddings, and you refer out to a competitor or somebody that's just getting their business started, don't let it go. There's
Yeah.
plenty. There's more than enough. If you don't have time to take on that intern, but you know that intern is just vying for a 6-week crash course into the business, take them on, figure it out, set the expectations low, and let them navigate the field.
Yeah.
But just help each other win.
Dude, I love that. That's really good. Yeah, I love that. I do, momentum is messy. I mean, I've been reciting that anthem and I love how John sets it up. He's like, it's gonna feel weird. It's cheesy, like, like whatever. But at the same time, I try to do it when nobody's around
Yes.
and reciting these things, then they just kind of like become a part of you. And momentum is messy is like one of my favorite ones. I've got that written up on my wall in my office over there. And it's just like, I'm doing things in this business. We're trying some new things. We're launching different things. I had to let an employee go not too long ago. I'm hiring new employees. My assistant just let me know that she's moving on, and
Your
there's just
pet's
all
heads
these
are
things.
falling off.
Yeah, my pets' heads are falling off. But the thing is, like, we are moving forward. We are
Yes.
experiencing momentum, and when that happens, it's messy. And as much as
Yes.
I would love for everything to be like smooth sailing, I do know the times in my life, in my business where I've grown the most, have experienced the most, have profited the most, whether that was financially or any other way. It's messy getting there, and
Yeah.
marriage, right? It's like we go deeper. Andrew and I, our love for each other and our connection, but it's messy. You start
Yes.
having teenagers and like enter in all these other worlds of things that you need to be thinking about and it is not smooth sailing, but the journey is worth it. And just this morning, my daughter crawled into bed with us. Andrea did not want her to sleep by her. She said no, and she was so sad. And she came over to my side because I'm her second favorite. She always tells me, and she's like, "Can I sleep next to you?" And I was like, "Absolutely." And I
Yes.
woke up this morning. I stood at the side of my bed, just looking at her sleep, and I'm just like, this is like the best moments. Like,
The
this is the
best.
best.
The
But at the
best.
same time, in the same breath, my wife and I are texting each other like later on in the morning, like, frustrated and just like kids aren't doing the thing, pets' heads are falling off, all the things. So,
Yes.
um, yeah.
Momentum is messy. And I'll just to riff off that, 3 points. One, massive action is a driver towards messy momentum.
Mm,
So if you're in inaction and it's not really messy, you're just kind of sitting in the mud.
yeah.
If you're like in the Spartan race and you're going through the mud because you're taking incremental action or massive action, and that might look different for, hey, how do I spin up a new service that isn't my traditional services that I've been stuck in for 10 years? And Ryan, you did that recently with that FAQ video series.
Yeah.
And when you were riffing on the idea, I wasn't sure if it had legs. And then, now it's, come to full fruition. I'm a benefactor of that service, and it's actually yielded business for me. And those that don't know what we're talking about, do you want to give a quick explanation of what it's called and what it is?
Yeah, we call it 21 and 1, and we've got this studio space here. People come in, they get an hour to film in front of this camera right here, and recite up to 10 FAQ questions that they get on a sales call, or if they're a recruiter, just things that people would ask on a sales call. And we create 10 videos, up to 10 videos of those FAQs. We create a horizontal version, a vertical version, and then we have one long one that has all the questions in it, and it's packaged, and it's a package price. It's very attainable, and it's way differently priced than like our brand stories that start at like 15 or twenty
Right.
thousand dollars. I literally, the call that I was on, that I had to push our podcast recording. I'm talking to this guy. He's working for this law firm. He doesn't work for them. He's hired to do marketing stuff for them. And he's like telling me what they need. They need a little introduction for this. They're speaking at this event. And I'm like, well, what's the budget? And he's like, I don't know. And I'm like, okay, well, let me just tell you, like, I sent him some videos that we had done for another law firm. I'm like, those start at like 15K and probably closer to 20K. They're beautiful. I'm not sure if that's what they need. But we also have this other thing, 21 and 1. It's like in and out of the studio, very streamlined,
Low
plain
ticket price.
background. Yep.
Totally.
And he was like, he started saying, he's like, oh man, he's like, he's like, we've got, and he starts naming all these different branches of this law firm and how all of them will need him. And I'm like, oh baby, let's go.
Yes. You're like, sign here, sign here, sign here.
Yeah.
Lifetime access. Um, Hey, another thing before I forget, I have a referral for you of a great candidate for that executive assistant. I just
Oh,
want to say that
excellent.
out loud.
Yeah,
Yes.
cool.
So I'll text you after this podcast.
Perfect. Any other
But
personal things that we can talk about? Like,
yeah, actually, you brought up marriage, and I think marriage is a good topic to cover on this podcast because there's a likelihood that many of you listening are either married, are going to be in a long-term relationship, or maybe coming out of one. But this kind of advice that I'm going to give you was given recently to me, and there's this perception. You always hear in kind of brand work that your perception creates the reality. So whether it's a value item of like a Herman Miller chair or the best Canon camera, like there's a perceived value that's the reality of the price tag, etc. But the same holds true for our relationships, and social media often disguises the
mm,
the, the real truth of the marital bliss that we all are going through. Hashtag whatever the opposite of bliss is
yeah.
sometimes what probably should be posted. But anyways, here's the advice I was given that uh, your marriage can be in three different spots. You can be in your honeymoon, kind of whistling Dixie, kissing each other, love letters daily, sticky notes, the whole bit. You can be like two ships passing in the night, wondering why your teenagers or your dogs or your cats are getting more snuggle time than your spouse. Or you could be planning your exit strategy. one of you or both of you are thinking and plotting, how do I get the heck out of this marriage? Here's the kicker. Here's the advice. If you are working on your marriage, if you are leaning into each other, then you have a good marriage, regardless of which one of those stages you're in, exit strategy, honeymoon,
Yeah.
or two ships passing the night. If you're working on it, your marriage is good. Your relationship is good. So don't feel like you need to have a perfect marriage to,
Yeah.
to have a good relationship. It's just about, goes back to the massive action and momentum is messy. Are you working
Right.
towards something better than what it currently is? If you are, then your marriage or your relationship is good.
Yeah. I think that's great. And I would say it applies to the business as well. Like if you're just kind of sitting back and letting things unfold as they are, that's one way to do that. But if you're really just like pressing in, I posted in our Facebook group the other day, I just said, like, how are you investing in yourself and in your business? And there were a number of people that were just talking about, I'm educating myself. I'm trying to buy courses and do the things and, like taking action, doing things, leaning in, trying to figure out like what's the next thing, not being afraid to learn. I was at this conference last week talking about like NFTs and Web 3.0 and these things that I'm like, I
The
don't know what that is.
metaverse.
The
Yeah.
metaverse, like all these things. But at the same time, I'm like, I've gotta try hard. I feel like the old guy in the room that, like when the DSLR revolution happened, I was in the middle of that, like, this is amazing. And then you've got these guys that were using these massive broadcast cameras that are like, it's a fad. It's not really the heart and soul of what this industry needs to be about. It's fake. You're not really a cinematographer, blah, blah, blah. Here I am like building this awesome business and they're fizzling out because they're refusing
Yes.
to learn and adapt and pivot and try to figure it out. And even though it's messy and it's hard to understand, there's still like, if you're not learning, I think this is the way the saying goes, then you're dying. If you're not
If
growing,
you're
you're
not,
dying.
yeah. And can I add a little bit to that real quick?
Please.
So I want to just pull this up because what you're talking about is adaptation to an ever-changing environment. And the truth is, whether it's in the business side or on the personal side, we as human beings really, really stink at change.
Mm.
So I'm hitting share. I've got this. Cool. It's coming up. Can you see it?
Oh yeah. Yep.
So I want to introduce to the listeners right now. This is called the change formula. Can you see it, Ryan?
Yep.
All right, so let's walk through this quickly. You've got vision. So the vision you have for something different than what you currently hold, times as a multiplier, the dissatisfaction. Oh, I hate my job. I hate this. I'm so dissatisfied. If you don't have a strong vision, then when you apply a little vision to a big dissatisfaction, it's nothing's happening. So vision is a multiplier towards squashing dissatisfaction. So when you have that kind of whatever that yields, and then you have the ability to take the first steps, which is fighting through the fear, if those things are greater than the resistance that comes with any sort of change, if those things are greater, then you will actually change.
Mm.
So I know this seems a little bit technical, but I think it's really important to note because part of what we need to do as business owners is we need to craft a vision that is so compelling. And it's not just the vision we keep telling about our friends over a beer that we didn't really actually write out on paper or spend the time truly manifesting with all five senses. But if you have a vision and you're listening to this and it's different for what your business is now, I want to encourage you to write it down to the extreme detail that you're describing, the date and the weather and what you're wearing when that vision comes to fruition. And that'll help drive some of the dissatisfaction or fear. And then all you got to do in that spirit of momentum being messy, take the first steps, pivot, fail, fast, all these things you hear. But those things will eventually overpower the resistance that comes with change, and you'll find yourself actually creating a life that you want to live. So there you go.
I love that. That's really good. I'd love to just pick your brain here, knowing the kind of work that we do. I know you just hired somebody recently to help you with your challenge course, both
Three
ends.
3 days to find freedom in your digital day.
Awesome.
So
And
it's just ways to kind of,
wh-
what's that?
when is that gonna be live?
So it's going to be live in August, and it's a free challenge that then funnels into kind of a 2 to 3 hour course that's got a low ticket price on it. But you and I talked about doing it. And then I had a guy from our church who is having a baby, and he's like, "Hey, do you have any work?" And I said, "Yeah, here's what's going on." And it was one of those right time, right place. And this isn't me like explaining to you, but it's just saying that like he offered me an opportunity to work together for a day for like $1,200, and it was pre and post, and it was probably below his going rate, but the timing worked out for both of us, and the work, 0 edits, 0, um, minus 1 small edit. Yeah, can you transcribe this into a... No, but all that's to say is, I don't know, where was I going with that?
I'm not sure, but that's not where I was going with it. My question is, so you have experience working with different video
Yes.
people. With the work that you do, what opportunities do you see studios like us, studios like that you just hired? I'll never forgive you for not hiring us. I have 3 babies, FYI. What kind of opportunities do you see that where we can add to the conversation or help our clients?
I got one. You ready? You
Yeah,
ready?
hit me.
Birth and the new idea. 90% of my revenue comes from virtual events. Okay. I think there is an missing opportunity for those that are skilled in video pre and post to create, I'll call it montages or highlights of virtual events. You've got clippets from your speakers, you've got, different moments, presentations, those sorts of things. They're doing happy hours and, making cocktails and doing pizzas and all these things. But I think, you could have a way to like aggregate user generated content from different vantage points of that virtual event. And then maybe there's a way to just kind of sell in hey, the same way you'd have like 4 videographers at a live event. What's that look like virtually? How does that function as a keepsake, show value, and be used as a talent retention or engagement piece for folks questioning, hey, I'm joining a remote workforce. Is it fun? I'm going to miss out on those team events that we used to go to. So that's a thought that comes to my mind.
That's interesting. I'm curious. Do you think that like 90% of your stuff is virtual right now? Is that? I mean, like it's going to change, right? It's going to
I'm
become.
actually I'm positioning myself to be the virtual keynote
Wow.
speaker to create connection in a hybrid world. That's my desire, because
Yep.
hybrid is here to stay. So if that's the
Right.
case, social connection and culture are currently being defined by your virtual experiences. So that's where I'm
Yeah.
kind of doubling down on my search, my
Interesting.
paid search, and my content, et cetera.
I like that. Well, what's
Yeah.
we could obviously talk forever. What how do you want to leave this conversation? What's the thing that you're gonna be like, oh Ryan, we didn't talk about this. This is something that I think would be really, really helpful for us to vamp on
Yeah,
for a minute.
I'm just going to I'm going to kind of bring the faith side into this equation, but I think there is something really significant about prayer. And for those that are
Hmm.
like, why are they talking about prayer at the end of a podcast? Prayer is actually just deep meditation on something that you strongly desire, whether that's a shift in your heart, a shift in someone else's, a contract to go through, a team member to to move on without you having to have that tough conversation. Many things that we can pray for, but I believe that if you added one new thing to your business acumen this year, would be to consider prayer. And so that's what I want to just impart to the listeners.
I like that. No one has that's a first here on the show. But I like it. I appreciate it. That's
Yes.
good. Where can people get your book, join your course, follow along with all of the Mark Ostach
Yeah, you can send me
things?
a fax or just hit me up on MySpace. Either one of those function.
Uh, what about your pager? Does your beeper number
My
still
beeper
work?
number still works. My razor, I got to charge it. I got to charge it. Now, you can find me on the socials. You can email me at hello at Mark Ostach, MarkOstach.com. But yeah, check it out. I just launched a podcast. I'm on episode 3. So it's fun. Got a new book coming out called If You Really Knew Me, The Secret to Creating a Culture of Connection and Belonging. And,
Baby.
before you know it, we'll be backyard grilling, Ryan. So if they really need to get a hold of me, they can just come to your house. And there's a strong possibility I'll be there.
Oh, Mark, I love
I
you,
love
dude.
you
This
too,
is so
Ryan.
fun. Thank you for making the space, even in the midst of the chaos currently that you guys are in. So I really, really appreciate you. And this was really
Thanks,
fun. Thank
man.
you.
See you later.
All right, friend, thanks for hanging out with Mark and I. Remember the show notes. You can get access to the links and the different things that we talked about in the show notes. If you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook, leave a comment and let me know what you thought about this episode. What do you think about mindset? Are you currently doing any practices like Mark and I do this daily anthem? Have you found anything else that helps put you in the right frame of mind to approach your work and your clients and your business in a way that is helpful and positive and helps move you forward? Would love to hear from you, so leave a comment to let me know. And I do want to tell you a couple more things. The Onward Summit is happening in October. We shifted. You probably heard me share that by now if you're on my email list. Like I said, October 2nd through October 5th here at our studio in the Detroit, Michigan area. If you want more information on that, just go to studiosherpas.com/onward and register. We've got a 4-payment plan, so you can break up the payments, and would love to see you here. It's going to be really, really good. I promise I am not going to let you down. So be here. Also, I would love to share a recent testimonial that somebody shared. This is a little review on the podcast store. This is the subject is informational and inspirational. I like it. This is from Mike C. Video. Mike says, longtime video professional and longtime listener, and I always glean some fantastic information and inspiration from the podcast, no matter the guest. Ryan's enthusiasm keeps things moving with natural conversation and great questions. Mike C. Video, seriously, thank you for those kind words. I love them. I appreciate them. And thanks for taking the time to review. If you like this show, take a screen grab of whatever app you're listening to and share that with someone that you think would benefit from the show as well. Remember, free workshop, go to studiosherpas.com/workshop. To do that workshop, I was going to say take that workshop, get it, whatever you say, like enroll in the free workshop. If you just feel like you don't have a solid business foundation for your business, or you're kind of just like ready to like ramp things up, I promise you it is a dose of fresh air. Is that and I bring it. I put some, I mean, you should have seen my notes as I was trying to like whittle down like all the things that I wanted to share. Spent a lot of time crafting that to really try to bring you the best value. So jump into that. Would love for you to do it and receive some very helpful things for you and your video business. That's all I have for now, my friend. You can find me on the socials at Ryan Coral or at Grow Your Video Business. And you can always email me, Ryan@studiosherpas.com. Are there any more calls to action I can give? That's it, folks. Until next week, I'll talk to you real soon. Peace out.